Welcome to Quantum Canine. I'm Tricia Salbach here with Kevin Behan.
Good morning, Tricia.
Hi, Kevin. We're going to start off today with a video question. We're just going to pop it to you.
Okay.
You haven't heard it before, and
Stump the chump
we're
kind
going
of
to try
thing?
to stump the chump, yeah.
Got
And we'll
it.
see what you come up with. So we'll
Okay.
roll that first video question.
About my dog. And you can say your name if you want. And action.
Hi, my name is Jermaine, and I have a question to ask Kevin. We have this wonderful dog who loves cats, but how can I stop her from chasing them because she scares them and they never get to play with her?
What do you think of that?
Good
Kevin?
question, good
That is a good
question.
question.
Well, let me just jump in through the model here or there to get it. All energy, emotion is based on attraction, and it goes from predator to prey, if you will. So the dog is attracted to the cats for the same reason it could chase the cats, because it sees them as prey. And of course, when a cat runs, and then it conforms to prey, and the dog chases the cats. So the best way is to introduce the cats. I like to put the cat in a crate so that it is cornered and it acts predator-like.
Like arching its back.
Yeah,
and
spitting and swatting. And what that does is redirect the energy of attraction back onto the dog. And if the dog stays attracted to the cat and is feeling this pressure back on it, the dog metabolizes that energy into social. And it starts to become bonded to the cat because the cat is reflecting prey energy back to it, or just let's just call it energy. So the energy is attracted to the cat. The cat is overwhelmed by that and runs. And that's the mistake. You should put the cat in a wire cage and then let the cat train the dog. So when the dog gets too pushy towards the cat will spit at it. Eventually the cat will learn, if I do nothing, I call it emotional jujitsu. It boomerangs right back at the dog. The dog ties itself in a knot, and the cat can say, be gone with you. And then eventually, when the cat wants to play, it'll mix it up with the dog, and the cat's always in charge of what happens. But what happens if you let the cat and dog together, that the dog's exuberance can overwhelm the cat. And even if the dog wasn't really have a lot of prey drive, as we say, so it would have chased the cat right off the bat, because the cat got swamped and it ran, then up pops the prey instinct, and you're kind of stuck with that until that wears out.
Well, that's really interesting because you probably remember how my dog would always chase the cats,
Right.
and then those cats eventually died, and we got new cats that were actually feral, and they weren't really afraid of the dog.
And
they
they
never
trained them.
ran, and now
Right.
the cat and the dog can live with the cats perfectly peacefully, whereas before it was crazy because they were always taking off. But
Exactly.
you're saying that was because the cat running is prey-like, and
Exactly.
when the cat acts predatory.
Right.
It's like what you talk about playing ping pong.
Right.
It's kind of playing ping pong with the dog.
Exactly.
So it's a social engagement. Is that what you're saying? 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
well,
a back and forth
right.
energy thing going on.
Right, so if the dog can still feel the prey attraction to the cat, even though it's being reflected back by the predator aspect of the cat. So every living thing has two components. It's preyfulness, and that's anything to do with its body, or its predator aspect, which is primarily its eyes and head, primarily the eyes. So if the cat can just be passive and reflect the energy back at the dog by doing nothing, then that energy bottles up inside the dog, and because the dog is such a sexual/sensual being, it softens. The energy softens and comes out as social.
It's so interesting because the new cats, we have the feral cats, they roll on the ground and rub their backs all over, and the dog's sniffing them. And I thought, I never thought I would ever see that.
Right.
Because he was so misalocked on just wanting to catch the cat and kill it.
Right.
And now it's this whole social thing that goes on. It's amazing. And it's
Yeah.
all because the cat is different. It's not because he's any different, really.
Right.
Yeah.
If the cat can master, this is the principle of nature, is the prey controls the predator. The predator does not overwhelm the prey, even though it looks like that. The prey actually gives permission to the predator. And if it doesn't give permission, then the energy goes back and forth, that ping pong elaboration process that we've talked about. And that's how it can elaborate into social energy. And then you see the kind of relationship you now have between dog and cat. But it's up to the cat.
That's why you're telling Jermaine to put the cat in the
cat's
crate,
gotta
because
learn
the
it
cat's
has
got
power.
it. The cat's got to control the dog.
Yeah, the cat has to learn that by being the object of attraction, it has total leverage. And this is why girls like to dress nice.
Right.
By being the object of attraction, they have leverage. Right?
We could really get into that conversation.
Exactly,
We'll
right.
skip it.
Yeah, that's a dangerous road to go down, I suppose. But the object of attraction has emotional leverage if it can feel that leverage. So that little kitty in Jermaine's case got swamped too quickly. Instincts took over. Now you're dealing after the fact. It's damage control at that moment. But if she would confine the cat so their predator part will speak up, because it has to.
It has to, because it's cornered.
And it's safe
Yeah.
because it's in a cage,
Right.
and the dog can stick his little nose where it shouldn't go, and it'd be like, "Whoa, where'd that come from?" But the cat is a master of emotional jujitsu if you let it find its bearings. I had a really cool cat that I think you remember, Boone, and once a confirmed cat killer came to my farm for training. It was a big Rottweiler, and for 2 weeks I'm working with a dog, and you never saw Boone out in the yard at all, ever. He was always slinking under a bush. He'd stay in the barn all day. When this Rottie was out with me, you never saw Boone. And then about 2 weeks into the program, I noticed Boone was sunning himself on the rock at the patio, which I hadn't seen him do in a long time. So I said, well, that might be interesting. So I walked the Rottie about 20 feet away and just stood there. And Boone saw us. He got up. He walked right at us. He arched his back right under the Rottie's muzzle.
Wow.
And I had him on a leash, but I didn't want to do anything if I didn't have to. And sure enough, he splayed himself on the ground in front of the cat, the dog. The dog shook him, and then the little dog's tail wagged, the big dog's little tail wagged. Roddy's had that little tail,
Yeah.
and the little stump was moving. And that was it. 'Cause
Wow.
now what was really cool was the cat could see the shift in the dog from 20 feet away. And probably felt it because he was in an exposed position for the first time I had seen him since the dog was on the property. But he had realized that the balance had shifted. He could feel that he had the leverage. And this was an accomplished master of dogs, this particular
Oh,
cat.
he was amazing cat. Yeah.
He was consorting with foxes out there. He would go
Yeah.
down to their den looking for them. But he knew this dog would kill him. So for 2 weeks he laid low, and then sure enough the dog shifted, so he just plugged right in and took over. It was really an amazing thing. I also had a little corgi that could do the same thing. Any dog on the property, he would be the prey. He had himself his little hiding spots. The dog couldn't get him. Little by little, the prey would take over the nervous system of the predator, and you have bonding. Which is, by the way, how babies control the nervous systems of parents. They are completely prey-like, with the bulbous, chubby cheeks and the chubby little thighs and the buttocks and the belly. And we say, you're so cute, I could eat you up.
Right.
I think I made that point earlier. But at any rate, it's a predator to prey is the basic conduit in nature. The very basic level of the mind is based on that energy circuit. And the prey controls the predator. So if the prey acts like prey, the predator is really attracted to it, and then if the prey has a predator nature as well, like a cat certainly does, it can boomerang it back at the predator and be in control.
And basically that's the whole basis of your model, really. That's why you say to people, be the moose.
Right.
The moose is bulbous and has that prey-like energy that's
Yep.
very attractive, but it also has those big antlers that are very
Right.
predatory, so
It's very bellicose. A moose is a tough animal. You don't mess with a moose. In the Indian medicine wheel, moose stands for self-esteem.
that's really
Yeah,
that's
they
really
walk through the
incredible.
woods. They don't care how much noise they make. You know,
No.
they're very powerful. If you really want to understand the nature of a dog, I invite people to go to the Museum of Natural History, go to the dioramas, and look at those two bull mooses fighting. And then imagine that a 100-pound wolf wants to
take
sink its
right,
teeth into
take
one
it
of those
down.
things.
Yeah.
Not to mention some 10-pound terriers I've known.
Right, exactly.
They're willing to fling themselves at that moose.
So that's the basis of
That's the
basically
basis
your
of my
model.
model, yes,
is just
exactly.
looking at nature from the prey predator.
Right. Right.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about a technique that you've developed, and maybe you can sort of preface it a little bit, which has been an amazing technique that I've used all the time, which is pushing.
Right.
And so what is the basic premise of the pushing exercise?
Well,
Why do it?
Because animals are designed to store energy. I mean, it's the way everything works. There's fat reserves, there's energy reserves, but there's also an emotional energy reserve. So all day long, animals are out there acting in a very constrained manner. And
They're holding back.
They're always holding back.
They're conserving
Energy
something.
and holding back, waiting for the big jackpot. In the absence of that, or something profoundly dangerous to happen, dramatically positive to happen, but they're always holding back, waiting for the moment when it's ripe to act. So that means there's a battery there. It's just like your computer has a storage mechanism. Anything has a storage everything. Anything and everything has storage medium.
We have storage.
We have storage.
Everyone has storage.
Right, so I call it the emotional battery. So the dog is out there all day long doing all these little things. It looks like he's having fun. It looks like he's relaxing or whatever, but he's storing up a charge no matter what's happening. And the reason he's storing up a charge is because the purpose of behavior is to overcome resistance. So this pushing technique is designed to access the dog's battery and get him comfortable with giving his owner this reserve energy, which is normally reserved for moments of crisis. And this explains the phenomenon of problem behaviors. Dogs are treated really positive, but they're still, unbeknownst to their owner, building up this charge, and then one day it comes out, seemingly out of nowhere. And they think that's why there's this myth that dogs snap or that they turn. But they haven't. They've just reached their holding capacity. Sort of like your computer. You just keep filling it up with data, and sooner or later you get an error message, don't you?
Right, or it crashes.
Yeah.
So that's what the dog is doing. It's building, and then one day it just crashes.
He's crashing, which is a download. Dump data.
Now, is the reason for that battery originally in nature so that they can go out and hunt? I mean,
well, it serves the hunting process, so that we go back to the dogs and the moose. It takes a lot of energy to overcome the resistance of a moose, and this is everything about the dog's makeup is based on the wolf's makeup and then the proto-wolf that broke away and became the dog. But it's all based on this hunting paradigm. But it's also based on danger, so that this reserve energy is tuned to the prey that's ready to go, the moose that's weak, or the predator coming at it from the bushes, or something's not quite right on the trail.
so for instance, a deer, they're storing energy, and they've got the battery, and then something comes after it, and kaboom, that's what that energy store is for, to run?
Exactly. So they're always storing up energy, but you'll notice how furtive they are. They're always looking for the predator. And interestingly, that's the only time they get to really run. Now, deer love to run, like a horse loves to run, but they just can't go out there and run.
They're not just running around aimlessly.
Right. Otherwise, they're going to run into dangers. They have to wait for the danger to appear. And so they're actually feeling released by the predator. And if we were to understand from the animal's point of mind, not our point of mind, which is, wow, that's dangerous. The wolf is chasing the deer.
Right.
But the deer actually likes to be chased.
And
the reason is getting a chance to express its battery.
Okay, so every organism has a battery to store energy to keep in times of danger or
and it's all,
hunting.
Right, so it's
either
a tuning device. It's not only a storage medium. It's a form of information.
Because it tells you what's dangerous?
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, the metaphor I like to use is, I don't know if they still do it, but I read about it. You could, in a dating service, you could have your cell phone and type in your personality profile, and then it tunes you to whoever is in your area that has the compatible thing,
really?
and is signed up to that thing. Apparently your phones ring.
Oh my
say,
God.
well, there's this person right there. If you want to talk to them, we'll...
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so I love that metaphor because that's exactly how the battery works. So the battery is charged, but it's also tuned. So whatever put that energy in there, something consonant with that is what vibrates it in the future.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Right.
So go back to the pushing technique. You said the purpose of it is to access the battery.
Access the battery, and then to tune it to the owner. So the dog, whenever he's feeling really stressed, he is attracted to his owner instead of whatever that is stressing him. or overly exciting him.
Okay, give me an example of that. So,
Well,
per se,
let's say he's afraid of the mailman.
Okay,
And he can't listen. He's hysterically aggressive when the mailman comes.
Right.
Well, his battery is tuned to the mailman.
I see.
Matter of fact, his entire life is attuned to the comings and goings of the mailman.
because the mailman is danger,
He's
or
the
is
only
the
one that can
trigger?
release. He's the only
It's
one
the only
that can trigger the battery
Okay.
and then release it.
Okay, so the owner's job is to trigger the battery
Exactly.
on purpose
Exactly.
in a coherent way.
In a coherent way, so
Okay.
it becomes part of the owner continuum. So dog barks at mailman, that's fine. And then right away, Skippy, come here, lay down. And pretty soon, the barking isn't maniacal, it's calm barking. Lets the owner know there's a mailman
Somebody's there,
or
right,
somebody at
yeah.
the door. But the dog is becoming composed too. And now the dog's mind's becoming conscious, if you will. Yeah, this isn't the end of the world. This is just
Right.
somebody at the door.
And this isn't danger.
And this isn't
Right,
the
I don't
ultimate
need the-
danger.
right.
Right.
Okay, so we have a short clip showing you
Good.
doing the pushing technique with one of the dogs out at your farm, and you explain a lot about the technique here.
I had developed the idea that everything a dog wants to do is make physical contact to feel emotionally connected. And I was having dogs jump up and muscle them up and play with them, and that was working really, really good. But I noticed that if something was more compelling, instinctually compelling, naturally attractive around them, I could feel this loss of connection. I also had this idea there's a battery, that any time energy didn't get to fulfillment, it was stored up in the dog as a battery. So I finally realized if I make myself resist the dog trying to get to me, that he would have to go into his battery and let out that old energy that they normally keep apart from everything until it comes up in some moment. It's reserved for some moment of high drama. So the dog started to tune into me with that energy that normally he reserves for out of the blue stuff, which, as it turns out, is the only time we need control over a dog, is when things happen out of the blue. So by getting all the dogs powering into me, all his energy, then it was available for heel sit down training, and I used it then to solve problems. It's the most powerful expression of a dog wanting to be with the owner, is pushing in with all his might. It drains the battery in that moment.
Wow, remember when it was green?
Oh yeah, it's hard to imagine.
Yes.
When it's white, it's hard to imagine green. When it's green, it's hard to imagine white.
Right, so the pushing technique is, you use it for training,
Right, well, let
and you
me-
use it for problem solving, both.
Yes, because it's all really one thing.
It's all one thing.
Yeah, because the battery is tuning and attuning. So you can see with the dogs how they were shaping their attraction to me. Because they were giving me all their energy, it was then available to be trained, shaped into healing. And you could see the dogs were learning to attune to me. And you could then see, we'll talk about it later a little more in that tape, you could see how energy acts like a magnetic force. So they started to align with me. And I'm manipulating it as we go. I'll explain it a little more. But so the thing you have to know about the emotional battery is the big brain in the head does not have access to it. We don't have voluntary or access or volition over the energy we hold in reserve. It's completely beyond our intellectual comprehension or control.
So we can't access it through
We
our
can't-
thoughts, our
No.
brains. So how do we access? Well, are we just talking about dogs, or are we talking about people?
All animals, all living
Okay.
beings.
So how do we?
Only the environment. Like I like to go
Oh,
back.
something outside of us
Yes.
has to trigger it.
Right. The same exact energetic parameters that caused it to be internalized and stored in the first place are the only thing that energy is now tuned to.
Now-
So the degree of resistance that caused it is the degree of resistance. Only that degree of resistance can trigger it.
So is this similar when people have trauma around some
Yes.
specific thing?
Right.
And then they hold it back and they don't even know it, and then years later they see something and,
Right.
they have emotional reaction.
Exactly.
They can't create that emotional reaction just by thinking about
No,
it.
they
It has to
can't
be
think it
triggered,
away.
and they don't even know it's there. Maybe.
Not only, they don't even know it's there, but what's really amazing is that the longer time goes, the more reinforced it gets. It can't go away. It actually becomes the foundation for everything that's learned subsequent to that.
Right, it's sort of the underlying
It's the
mechanism
underlying-
that's sort
yeah,
of driving us,
exactly.
and we don't even know
It's the
it.
deepest layer, the most intense deposit of stress, and so everything is built on it, which is why it all comes apart in a second.
So when we relate to this to dogs, let's say that let's use this example. Somebody has a puppy and they really love to, put their face in the puppy's face and
Right.
pick it up and smush it, smushy.
Right.
And they don't understand that they're imprinting that dog with like fear of face. And then
Right.
when the dog's 2 years old, they bend down, oh, hi, blah, blah, blah. And the dog goes kaboom.
Exactly.
And they say, that came out of nowhere.
Right.
And you say,
They were loading
no.
it. Yeah, right. For 2 years, they were loading. And then, whenever he saw a stranger, he was afraid of somebody pushing their face into his face, which is like taking the north pole of two magnets, or even more, the positive pole of a battery to the positive pole of another battery. You get electric repulsion.
But
And that drives it down deeper into the battery of that particular dog. And 2 or 3 years later, when he's finally mature enough to express what he's been holding back, because he can't hold it back anymore, there's
Right.
too much in there.
right.
Boom, it comes out like in an instant, usually as aggression. Can also come out as a phobia.
And all this looks mysterious to people.
Yeah, it looks
but
like it came out of nowhere. Dogs are unpredictable, dogs are crazy, dogs will be dogs, but there's a perfect logic to it. Once you understand this holding back, and it has to come out. So the object of all behavior is to get that unresolved energy resolved.
And so when you have a dog with a problem behavior, the pushing is how you resolve any problem. So it's a tool that you can use with
It's-
anything.
Right, it in and of itself doesn't resolve it, but it creates a conduit. The flow of energy is what resolves it.
So it comes out, every dog, it comes out in a different way?
No, in other words, they each have their own triggers.
Okay.
So, let's say a dog growls over his food bowl,
Okay.
and I'll teach him to push over the food bowl, and then I'll trigger to growl, and he'd push for food. Trigger to growl, push. Pretty soon he can't growl over the food anymore.
That's interesting. You trigger him to growl,
Right, and then I
and you
absorb
ask him
it.
to push for food.
Right.
Wait, maybe you could explain a little bit how that works. I'm not really understanding. So you're getting him to growl,
Right.
and then you're getting to him express.
To give me that
Give you the-
fear-laden energy, because the growling is showing you that he's got electric sparks going off in his brains.
So after he does that a few times, is he relearning, or is he letting go, or both?
It feels he'd rather feel good than bad.
Oh, okay.
So by giving me his fear, the pipe is flowing. He starts to feel good. So eventually, when I trigger him to growl, he would rather feel. He chooses to feel good than bad. So he's attracted to me with an open heart, and he just what? Okay. Then I can pet him. Good boy. Now put some food in the bowl, and now we've resolved the food issue over the bowl.
Huh.
So I took something that was not conductive, to throw another word at us, and made it conductive.
So you made the food bowl conductive
Right.
to, to flow of energy? Is that,
Yes,
okay?
exactly. Because the only reason he's growling over the food bowl is because he's stuck.
He's stuck. Okay.
Energy's stuck. He's attracted to me with a force that can't move. So he's growling. From his point of view, he's just trying to dump energy. He's like, let me get some of this energy out of my system before I blow a casket.
That's what growling is.
Right. And if
Okay.
I were to take it personally, oh, he's defying me, he's dominating me, he's scaring me. If I take it personally, I won't see what's really happening. He has a ton of fear that's being triggered. I'm actually causing him the fear. He's not doing it to me. I'm actually doing it to him, even though I might think of myself as the innocent passerby. But I'm actually triggering a physical memory in his emotional battery of some trauma. And therefore, what I have to do to help him is to become its manner of release. And when you do this kind of work and get comfortable with it, it's amazing how they will twist themselves inside out not to bite you. They can just feel you're on their team. And they, 1,000 times in a row, they've bitten people over that context or wanted to. And they still would rather not bite you. I've had them bite all kinds of things except me. I do everything so I'm safe. I'll have a leash and a collar. And I have them bite the metal leash, the metal collar, and bite their own tongue rather than my hand. And they're much quicker than I am. I don't have to worry about it after a while. They'll always go for the path of least resistance. They'll try to avoid me.
Huh, that's very
So
interesting.
but once you start doing this pushing, Then they start to trust you with their fear and their worst impulses. They start to trust with giving me their worst impulses. And that's the ultimate bond. I like to give the example of if a parent, little Johnny, comes to mommy or daddy and says, "Mom, I was thinking of hitting Billy over the head today and stealing his lunch money." Well, mom doesn't say, "Bad, Johnny."
Right.
She says, "Oh, thanks for sharing, Johnny.
Right.
Well, let me give you another way out of this."
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit
How you really
here.
earn money. Yeah, you don't have to hit somebody over the head.
Right.
You're not going to really feel good if you do that. So we can do that with language. But what I mean is our attitude isn't, when the child shows us fear, "I'm afraid I'm going to hit Billy." You wouldn't say, "Bad, Johnny."
But we do that with dogs all the time.
We do that with dogs because we
all
take
the
it
time.
personally.
Oh,
Exactly.
because we take it personally.
And then we read in all this behaviorism, which is they're trying to dominate, they're this, they're that. Although I would say the positive school's trying to see their way through, but they don't actually have a model. But what's really happening is the dog is expressing his fear to his owner. He's safe to do so because the bowl is there, giving him instinctive license, if you will. But the real problem is there's stored up fear in the battery, and you have to help him release it. And it always turns into social energy. Anytime energy moves, this is why it's very important to talk about energy. The movement of energy always creates sociability.
Okay, so we have a problem behavior. You define the problem behavior as stuck energy.
Yep.
It's stuck in the battery. It's trying to come out. It's getting all crooked. You get it to come out in
And it needs to be triggered.
in a coherent form by triggering it in the same way that it was put in.
Right.
You get it out, you get it flowing, and then you have trust.
Yes.
And you're able to mold it into
Right.
this social.
It'll turn on itself to social, and I just got to be around and say, "Good boy." I once imported a dog from Germany who was very food aggressive over his bowl. And I did something analogous to this. This was way back in the 80s. And about 6 months later, I fed him outside on the deck. And it was winter time, and all the kids' boots are right by the slider, and I was going to walk him after I fed him. I put his food bowl down there, got my coat on, opened the door, and tripped over the boots and face planted almost in the bowl. And I'm looking eye to eye with him.
Oh, my God.
I said, "Good boy, Horace."
Right?
He was totally fine with that. So I had actually fallen into his food bowl. I was so happy that I had done that.
6 months before, he would have probably.
Oh, I would have been a bad scene.
That would have not been
good.
pretty.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So anyhow, that's what I call resolving it.
And you also encourage people to use this technique just in, even when it's not problem behavior, right? Just in general training. It's just a way, basic training.
Every dog has a battery. No matter what happens, they store up a charge. No matter how loving and nice you are, they're designed to store up a charge.
It's just nature.
They're
right?
designed to store up a charge in order to do the work of evolution, which in the canine is taking down the moose that's ready to go. That's why they have a battery.
So the dominant school says, look at nature. The dog is part of nature. The dog needs to be part of a dominance hierarchy. And you say, look at the dog. They're part of nature. Their job is to take down the moose.
Exactly.
That's the difference in the two models.
Right, and then we can go right through all the catechism and reinterpret it in terms of this battery, and you see a completely different interpretation of what the puppies are learning from the mother. And it's got nothing to do with respect, appeasement, it's dominance, submission, rank, command, control kind of models. It has nothing to do with that whatsoever.
Why don't we let the audience think about that till the next segment.
Or we could say they could feel about it.
They could feel about it, right.
See how that comes
Yes, try to come up with an alternate explanation for what the puppies are learning when the mother is stressing them out.
We'll cover that.
And we'll get to that next time. So stay tuned so you can find out the answer next time on Quantum Canine.